tuning into Roll Call. The movie you selected is Men in Black 3, starring Will Smith.
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hits.
Yes, because let's face it, who wouldn't want to go to Blockbuster in 1969?
Oh my gosh, could you imagine how I feel like the mustard color, like that would just be the most grooviest Blockbuster. I'm imagining like lava lamps everywhere, big, like fluffy pads to like sit down and like pick your movie. I'd imagine like beaded curtains in like the adult section that you would, even though Blockbuster didn't have an adult section.
I feel like VHS didn't exist in 1969
It
either,
didn't.
so I just pulled that out of my ass. But yeah, I would use time travel to do that for sure. Go back to Blockbuster in its prime on a Friday night.
Ooh, groovy baby.
What's up, everybody? I'm Bria, and when I see a couple, I too am like, oh, okay.
And I'm Simone, and at 32, sometimes I feel like I look like I got some city miles on me too, man.
That was funny because I'm 29, and I was like, damn, he's supposed to be 29.
I think that was the joke because Josh Brolin was like 40 when he filmed this.
And I think Will is too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they definitely are not in their late 20s.
Yeah.
It's like the
a bit of a
men
dick
in
to
Grease.
Tommy Lee.
It's like the young men in Grease where it's like, these were supposed to be teenagers? These are supposed to be 29-year-olds right here?
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Enough about teenagers.
And
decades. In this episode, we're talking about Will Smith in the 2012 sequel action comedy Men in Black 3. So, Simone, take us on a trip back to May of 2012.
All right. So, we have a bit of a gap in movies this time around. Almost our entire timeline has been year after year after year after year. Our last movie was Hancock in 7 Pounds in 2008. And so there's a 4-year gap between then and Men in Black 3. This is going to be Will Smith's, actually, I think, one of his longest gaps in film. And so it was, researching for the show, we know that Men in Black has been a franchise that we've talked about with Burger King line toys. Unfortunately, there's no toy line for Men in Black.
Is this
3.
when Happy Meal toys are like the sin of
I think a lot
food.
of people are cutting deals. I mean, they still make Happy Meal toys, but I think a lot of movie companies and stuff are starting to cut their ties a little bit. There was a small toy line for Men in Black. I think Men in Black 3, there were about 4 or 5-ish toys. I'm going to name them off the top of my head. We have a newly remodeled Agent J and Agent K. There's going to be a Boris toy. There is there was supposed to be a voice box changing one, because if you hear Boris's voice in the movie, he kind of has this very warbled, weird sounding voice. It went into production, but it was never officially sold. So that got me thinking where do the defunct toys go? Is there just some warehouse of toys that were never released to the public? And how fun would that be to stumble into it? So, but overall, in Men in Black 1 and 2, there were lots of toys that were released for like the guns and the blasters and stuff. And I just feel over time they probably lost the sunglasses and neuralizers. They just kind of lost their specialness. So this toy line was really small, was only on the shelves for a small bit. But for overall pop culture today, I thought it would be fun because this movie came out in May of 2012, and May is when the Billboard Awards are. And so I wanted to focus this week's pop culture on the 2012 Billboard Ceremony Awards. So before we do, we should look at kind of a little hint on the Billboard Hot 100 of May in 2012. But I'm going to just do top 10 for this one. But a song that was on everybody's clutches, on the radio everywhere, got stuck in our head was Gautier, Somebody That I Used to Know. This is number one.
He came and went.
Yes, it came and went. I feel like this was a song similarly to like Pump Up Kids, where you just hear it all the time, and then it just went away.
I will say, though, Foster of the People's album is actually good. I don't know about Gautier, but that's like one of my biggest fear with like liking a song is like either going to listen to the album and the album is nothing like the single, or it being a one-hit wonder and you're like left high and dry. You're just like, he is somebody that I used to know.
You're like, cool, thanks for that one song. Oh, man.
I mean, I'll be honest, like, a lot of the songs on this list are giving, like, not one-hit wonder, but, like, you know, not longevity either.
Yeah, agreed. Number 2, there's We Are Young by Fun. And I didn't know Janelle Monáe was a feature on there.
I didn't know that either. This was in a lot of movie trailers, I feel like. Oh, you know what? I think when I watched the We Work show with Jared Leto and Anne Hathaway, I feel like this was in there. But, like, if we start seeing movies and TV shows about this time period, this is definitely going to be, like, on the soundtracks.
It kind of reminds me of, you know, how teen movies of our era all used like da-na-na-na-na-na-na, like a Blink-182 or like that kind of pop punk intro. This is the like 2012 generation of like big songs. Coming in at number 3 is Payphone by Maroon 5 featuring Wiz Khalifa, who is really big in the billboards. Number 4, Call Me Baby, Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen.
Man, everywhere.
Number 5 is Wild Ones by Flo Rida featuring Sia.
I don't even know how that goes.
I don't either, and I feel a little embarrassed for it, but I'm sure like as soon as you play it, you'd be like, oh yeah. 6 is Glad You Came by The Wanted. The song goes down.
I thought that was a One Direction song. So
yeah. I mean, they all, at a glance, when you look at their teeny tiny tile, it looks like One Direction. So
teeny tiny tile. Alliteration for the win.
Number 7 is Starships by Nicki Minaj. 8, Boyfriend by Justin Bieber. Here's a One Direction song. Number 9 is What Makes You Beautiful. And 10 is Stronger, What Doesn't Kill You by Kelly Clarkson.
What a pity that One Direction got beat out by The Wanted.
Well, The Wanted, that's probably their one time to shine, because then soon after, One Direction's gonna blow TF up.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll be honest, like, I looked at my iTunes history for 2012, and I was very much, like, out of listening to the radio and stuff. This is when I was like, I'm gonna start listening to whole albums, and I started listening to a lot of like indie bands and going to concerts in the city. So I feel like really out of touch with this list of music, but
I just know what stood out to me, I mean, looking at general pop culture of 2012, one of the biggest things this year is Taylor Swift came out with her Red album, and that is an album that I had and played a lot of.
The crazy thing is I'm scrolling down the Billboard list, so when you started to say that, I saw J-Lo is on here for Dance Again. So I was like, oh shit, how did she know I'm looking at J-Lo? And then I realized who you were talking about. But great phrasing, old associate.
Yes, our old associate. So that kind of gives us a context. I mean, that's just Billboard at a glance for May specifically for this year. That's not Billboard the year that of what the awards are going to cover. So the Billboard Music Awards were held on May 20th. Of 2012. I think this movie came out 5 days later. It was at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, and it was hosted by Modern Family's Julie Bowen and Ty Burrell, which I think was kind of funny. That it was hosted by, like, not music people, but I don't know, maybe that makes sense. We had some performances by LMFAO, Kelly Clarkson, The Wanted, Chris Brown, Natasha Bedingfield, Usher, Jay Biebs, Carly Rae Jepsen, Carrie Underwood, Linkin Park, Katy Perry, John Legend, and Jordan Sparks did a tribute to Whitney Houston, Patent Pending, Goody Mob, Nelly Furtado, Stevie Wonder, and Alicia Keys also duetted.
I wonder if this is when I went to see Katy Perry with our old associate.
Oh, I forgot you went to that concert. Moving right along. All right. So do you want to take any guesses on like who some of the big takeaways were that year for awards?
Oh, I'm looking at it, but I can guess that I haven't looked at like the winners or anything, but I was right at presenters. So based on performance people, I'm assuming that Justin Bieber definitely won some awards. Adele, I want to say, at this time, I believe Drake is out. Katy Perry probably won some awards. Rihanna. I can't scroll and see.
Yeah. Adele was like the big winner this night. She got top artist, top female artist, top Billboard 200, top Billboard 200 album, top Hot 100 artist, top digital song artist, top radio song artist, top streaming song, which was Rollin' in the Deep, top digital media artist, whatever that means, top pop artist, top pop album. I mean, Adele took away so much. Beyonce did take top R&B album.
They always stick her in R&B.
Yeah.
I mean, this time, though, this is the 4 albums, so that's actually pretty accurate.
Well, I also think it's interesting because they put Adele in top alternative song. She won again for Rolling in the Deep against, like, Foster the People, Mumford and Sons, and Coldplay. And, like, I wouldn't, and AWOL Nation, that's Cyril. I wouldn't put Adele in that category. So I feel like that was really rude to those other contenders.
I mean, they could have stuck her in R&B, too, if they wanted to.
And she probably would have taken it away, you know? Which is
some sneak ones here that are not surprising me, but like LMFAO won a lot for Party Rock Anthem. Yeah. They won a few different awards. Kelly Rowland's Motivation was everywhere. Coldplay, Milo Exalto went to that concert everywhere. But yeah, that's Adele. Is the Adele Billboard Awards. Like,
truly.
Even Lady Gaga's Born This Way couldn't stop Adele.
Yes, that's so true. I also linked, the last thing I linked in there was just pics and looks from that night. There wasn't a lot that really stood out to me. Katy Perry still had her purple hair at this time. She had a really pretty like lavender purple dress. Jay Biebs is like not tatted. It's just so funny to see him look so young still.
Yes.
He's wearing this like jean jacket leather combo. Taylor Swift in a red dress, of course, for her album. With the bangs and long hair. Carrie Underwood has this like gorgeous Perry purpley pink dress. Miley had this is like, again, a little bit before she cuts her hair off, but she has a shorter bob, and it looks like she's just kind of wearing a long overcoat dress jacket that looks kind of cool. Not paying attention to Robin Thicke because he can go fuck himself, but Alicia Keys looks great in a sleek black dress. Usher had that bright ass cyan blue suit.
Oh my god, my favorite look is LMFAO.
Oh, because they never give a fuck. They're just like ripped tank top, like frat bros.
And the crazy thing about them, which I didn't know at the time, but like in, retroactively learning stuff on the internet, is that they're related to Barry Gordy. Like that is his son or grandson.
Oh,
and
shit.
I'm just like, they have like roots in like the greatest music family tree. And like this is what they chose to do. Which I loved LMFAO at the time. Like them and like 303 were Cobra Starship were like everywhere. Like they were your pathway drug to like the oonce oonce EDM rise at the time.
So true.
I'm seeing a lot of short dresses on the ladies, lots of strapless, except for Natasha Bedingfield. She looks like she should be at the Oscars.
Yeah.
And then for the men, lots of skinny, tapered pants.
Yeah, tailored suits.
So what a time. 2012 fashion. I would say like this is still like pretty. Like I'm not cringing at this. Like
no.
Yet. Give me 5 years. It's like, oh, what were we thinking?
Oh, God. Yeah. All right. Well, before I get into movies of May, you want to hit us with some pop culture corner?
I don't really have much. I mean, Will was pretty quiet. But I will say that this is definitely in hip hop, like the time for Young Money and everything that we talked about Lil Wayne and his Great Ascent last episode. We are seeing the fruits of that with artists like Drake with his second album Take Care, and then Nicki Minaj and her second album, and artists like Rihanna. And also Rihanna did a song with Chris Brown called Birthday Cake at this time, which was like a big like like she forgave him, or like they're okay, or are they getting back together. She also released We Found Love, which I remember my friend Megan sent me the music video, and I feel like the music video was definitely in some ways very reminiscent of her and Chris Brown, like the guy in that video, and just like kind of the toxic like romantification of that kind of relationship. So yeah, I mean 2012 too, I feel like was a bridge for, like I said, Lil Wayne was starting to like kind of get in his skater rock era, and we're definitely in it by then. We're in it with the skinny jeans, and even looking at LMFAO, like zebra print skinny jeans and stuff like that, and all kinds of stuff like that. But then you also have like rap, like Drake and Big Sean, I believe, had came out by then or was starting to, and Kanye and Jay-Z put out Magna Carta, Holy Grail. So you still have like this kind of luxury rap and like these very opulent rap artists, but then you're starting to see like more young rap artists come up and like be different, and the swag era of like colorful skinny jeans and all that stuff, snapbacks, and just being way different, not matching all the time, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's all I've got really for Black pop culture.
All right. Well, getting into movies, in addition to Men in Black coming out in May 25th, I believe it was right before not that weekend, Memorial Day weekend in May. We also have the Avengers, which is first of the like Avengers franchise. We had an Iron Man and we had a Captain America. Those were like the little two lead ups prior to the Avengers, but this was the first one where they're all together. A movie called LOL starring Miley Cyrus, which is like a coming of age movie, and like basically her mom finds like text message conversations and learns about the like.
Is that based off of that book that's like written in text?
I think so.
Lingo?
Maybe.
I feel like I remember that on like at Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah, I think Demi Moore is also in it. She might be the mom in the movie, but basically she like finds her kids like text message logs and realizes the like dangers and funniness of social media. It's like, I remember my mom seeing, I must have left like an AIM chat log or something open once, and she saw a conversation between me and some friends and was like horrified because, you know, obviously when you talk to your parent, you're not cussing because you would get in trouble and you would keep it very PG or G in front of your parents, but then you're just like, fuck that bitch in your AIM chat log, and your mom's like, oh my God. In addition, there's also Girl in Progress, which I picked out as an Eva Mendes movie. Dark Shadows, that's the Johnny Depp vampire movie. I like the title of this one, but I never saw it. It's called We Need to Talk About Kevin, and it stars Tilda Swinton, and it's a horror thriller. I think she has some like fucked up psychopath son, something weird like that.
You and Kevin should definitely watch it. Like, you should just watch it and you're like, oh, what you watching? And you're like, we need to talk about Kevin. And he's like, what? Like, we need to talk about Kevin.
And he's like, what do you need to talk to me about?
It's like that clip of that lady on the news when the guy's talking about you.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that was so funny. We also have a 6 Degrees, What to Expect When You're Expecting, came out this month as well. So we've probably already named these movies in our last season with J-Lo. The Dictator with Sacha Baron Cohen.
I don't remember these.
Oh, really? Maybe we skipped them. There were 2 Samuel L. Jackson movies this month. There's also Battleship, Moonrise Kingdom, Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, which is definitely like a movie for boomers. I remember my parents going to see that in the theater. No offense, Mom and Dad. I know they don't listen to the show anyway, so it doesn't matter. And then Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies. So, Bria, I'm interested, you know, coming out at the same time, or around the same time as Avengers. I'm curious because I know Men in Black 1 and 2 successfully had some good box office, so I am curious to hear what their takeaway was.
What a good segue. All right. Well, the budget of Men in Black. Ooh, I like how I was like, budget.
Budget.
The budget of Men in Black is an estimated $225 million. The gross U.S. and Canada opening weekend is $54.5 million. Okay. And gross U.S. and Canada total is $179 million. Gross worldwide is $624 million.
Okay.
So he's still bankable, baby. Like,
very bankable.
Still cashing in. But I'm curious, real quick, I want to see like what Avengers made.
Avengers had to. I think Avengers competed against Dark Knight Rises, which was the,
okay.
It was like $1 billion, right?
Worldwide, yes.
Yeah.
And the budget was similar. The gross U.S. Canada opening weekend was $207 million. And then
so it made back what it made, like, to make it within
the weekend.
The weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then total was $623.3 million.
Shit.
So yeah.
Disney was just like popping those champagne bottles. They're like, fuck yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
And I would say like this is probably like a big shift movie wise, like in what is seen as like a blockbuster, and like we definitely are still very much in the era of like Marvel superhero movies, TV shows, all those things.
Yeah,
so
we're still getting Avengers with She-Hulk, Attorney at Law streaming on Disney Plus, and
Miss Marvel, right?
Miss Marvel, all that stuff. It has staying power.
We just got a Black Panther teaser trailer.
Yes. I'm excited for that.
Black Panther 2. But yeah, so sorry, Men in Black. Like, sorry to this movie. Sorry to this franchise.
Yeah.
But I think it did pretty good, like, in terms of, like, within the franchise.
Yeah. Wasn't a flop.
I'm curious what Men in Black 2 made in comparison. So, Men in Black 2. So, Men in Black 3 made more than Men in Black 2.
Oh.
Its gross worldwide is $445 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't do too bad.
200 million more, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like a difference in eras and times and like what people are interested in and looking to go to movies for.
This is also 15 years after the first one was released, right?
Yes.
So, and then in between Men in Black and 10 years, yeah. So, it's 10, even just 10 years between 2 and 3 is a good chunk of time. But maybe that actually worked out for their benefit because that like got people a little bit more excited with having such a long gap. I remember seeing the trailer in the theater and being like, okay, I'm not. I definitely saw movies like Moonrise Kingdom that month and the Avengers and stuff. I was like, today was actually my first time seeing Men in Black 3.
Oh, I definitely feel like I saw this, or I definitely knew like what the plot was. But I can see in a weird way like the audience that grew up with Men in Black having grown out of it, even though there's nothing to really grow out of, but just being like what more can I possibly like get out of this franchise versus like the anticipation of like the world building in some of the huge like series that we've gotten with like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or the Avengers or Star Wars, where it's like no matter how many times they keep jerking off these franchises, we are willingly sitting there like, yes, on the face.
On the face! Oh my gosh. Well, and speaking of anticipation, I am in anticipation waiting to hear of what someone thinks about this movie. And we are getting close, everybody. Roger Ebert, he passes away in 2013. So this might be our last Lil Raj review.
Wow.
Unless he reviews After Earth, which I'm not going to look at until next week. So we'll see.
All right. No pressure. All right. Mr. Ebert, Lil Raj, House of Lil Raj. His title for his review for Men in Black 3 is, "You think you seen bug-eyed monsters? You ain't seen nothing yet." How many stars do you think Mr. Ebert gave Men in Black 3?
I wonder how he feels about the use of jumping back and forth in time, because I know sometimes film critics don't like that. I'm gonna say 2.5 or 3.
You're almost there. 3.
Okay, 3.
Yes. I was surprised that he liked this movie that much, but his opening line is, "Men in Black 3 comes 15 years after the entertaining original and 10 years after the sequel laid an egg. And the surprise is, it's better than the first one." And I was like, whoa, that's a big statement.
That's a big statement. Because he gave Men in Black, the first one, 3 stars.
Yeah, and to say that a sequel, whether that's 2 or 3, is better than the first movie is always like, but
yeah.
And I mean, it depends. Like movie series that like continue to build on stuff, I definitely see like why that can be applicable. But sometimes it's just like the original is just like you can't touch it because it's the first thing you ever saw or introduced everything. So it's just like pure, and you're just like, we know, talk about this. Okay, we're not going to judge this little baby here.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, but anyways, so he points out the passage of time between the movies and, whether or not the concept may be new to some people, but it still does the job. He goes on to talk about, obviously, the aliens and the makeup of Rick Baker. And he says, "I'm not sure how undercover MIB agent can be when he dresses exactly like the Blues Brothers, but never mind, they get the job done." Which, I mean, third movie in, Roger, really, we're going to question their uniform? like,
Yeah.
and by the way, I feel like in 1969, like, and I feel like that's probably why they wear suits, is like it just worked with that whole time period of like
Yeah.
the
The
50s and
suit
the 60s.
culture.
Yeah, like Mad Men, or the picture of like all those men leaving the train station in like their suits, overcoats, and hats, of just like the rat
Yep.
race
Yep.
of New York or these major metropolitan cities, of like, these men going into work and they all are kind of wearing the same kind of, outfit and trendy style at the time. Was it trendy? Anyways, so he also talks about the introduction of Emma Thompson and the plot and all that stuff. I feel like he really didn't have a lot to say in this movie. He just talks about the plot and the characters, the villains. He does talk about time travel. So he says, time travel can be very complicated. To make it simple, Agent J tries to travel back in time to prevent Boris the animal from killing K. This results in a young K existing in the same period as J, who's the same age he started as, so the old man and the rookie are now contemporaries. How this is achieved is the movie's most impressive achievement. So he actually was impressed by the time travel storyline.
Okay.
So he talks more so about being impressed by the fact that they didn't try to de-age Tommy Lee Jones,
Yes.
but they got Josh Brolin to play a younger him, and I think this is really where Roger is like, yes, give me more, because he's very impressed by Josh Brolin's performance as young K, which I think he should be. He says he looks like the casting is spot on. He looks like a young Tommy Lee Jones, and he sounds so uncannily like him that director Barry Sonnenfeld, hearing him, allegedly shed tears of relief. He was convinced while watching the movie that Tommy Lee Jones, dubbed his own voice. But let's remember that Josh Brolin was also a sound alike for George W. Bush and W. So the man has chops. But he goes into the plot and all that stuff. But his final thoughts is that, let me say that although I liked the first MIB movie, I wasn't particularly looking forward to this belated sequel. But I had fun. It is an ingenious plot, bizarre monsters, audacious cliffhanging, and you know what? A closing scene that adds a new and sort of touching dimension to the characters of J and K. So, Simone, how many pumps of butter are you giving MIB? 3, with a notation that you really did not like 2. So
You nailed it. Actually, I really agree with Lil Raj's review on this one. I would also give this 3. I don't always, sometimes I do think time travel can get really complicated as a storyline, especially when they might have forgotten plot points from the previous ones. But I think what really helped with this was that Barry Sonnenfeld was consistently directing 1, 2, and 3. And so I think that benefited making sure that things stayed canon within their universes and timelines and stuff. And I liked some of the little Easter eggs throughout the film as well. It kind of felt like watching a little Pixar movie of oh, there's the ball. Oh, there's the Pizza Planet truck. There's A113. You get to see aliens of times past, nods to Frank the Talking Pug. One of the watch that young Kay was wearing is the same watch that was from the locker from the second one that was the light. So there were great tie-ins from some of the other movies. I loved the cast from this one. I totally agree. Josh Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones are very neck and neck of great casting choices for young and old. And I loved this one so much more than the second one. Not as much as the first, but yeah, a whole hell of a lot more than the second one. So 3 full, 1, 2, 3. I really enjoyed watching this.
I'm gonna go 3 too. I don't remember my ranking for 2, but I remember it's higher than yours.
Yeah.
And I will say, though, my very first note when watching this, because we'll talk about this, but the opening scene, I was just like...
Again.
It's rare that I see the opening scene of a movie and think, yeah, this didn't need to be made. So, like, I felt like initially watching the beginning of 3, I thought we were getting like 2 but on steroids again.
Yes.
And I was like, look, I gave 2 a pass because I was like, it's just bigger and better and slimier, baby. And you know, what do we want from these movies?
Yeah.
But come on, man.
Yeah.
And so watching it, I also kind of fell asleep a few times. So I had to go back. And not because of the movie, it's just like I tried to watch it really early this morning and I kept dozing off because like it was just the mood. But so anyways, I do feel like the plot was well thought out, especially the time travel aspect of it, which could get wonky. It felt like it had a more serious tone to me, which I feel like it gives me an idea of like I gave 2 a pass because there were like cheesy and like very repeatable kind of trends in it from 1, and I was like, it's a sequel, like, you know, they're just looking for aliens on Earth. There's not much, you know, else you can do with that, and this obviously shows there is more else. There is more that you can do with this, but I just feel like I was watching this and I was thinking, I was like, if they set this tone to begin with, and I think part of it too is just like the growth of Will, is that his tone in this movie is completely different from 1 and 2 in my opinion. Yes. And I think that goes from like the serious movies he did prior to this. But if this was the tone that was set instead of like this fun kind of goofy buddy cop comedy vibe, but more of this like serious, almost Mission Impossible-esque type of thing, or FBI, you know, those kinds of things, then like I would look at this whole trilogy differently in a way. So I don't know, I just feel like Men in Black 3 in a weird way opened up the possibilities of this franchise even more than the first 2. And I haven't seen International, but at this point I feel like I should watch it even if we don't talk about it. But I really hope that they grew from this tone that they took versus going back to 1 and 2, but I don't know. But yeah, I like this movie. I thought the plot was really strong, and yeah, the tonal shift was welcomed for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to pick up, because for me it was also refreshing to see Will Smith back into a role like this after watching some really heavy hitters over the past couple of weeks. So I was really excited to like...
You're like, ooh, I'm not going to cry this movie.
Yeah, have a low stakes. So, and speaking of which, if someone hasn't seen Men in Black 3, how would you summarize this movie to someone?
I would summarize this movie by saying basically it starts off, J and K are older, and this criminal alien gets broken out of jail, and he is seeking revenge because K took his arm. And so he's like, fuck him. And I think, like, too, he's the last of his alien kind. So he's trying to avenge his alien race. So he met some dude in jail who figured out time travel. And so he goes to that dude's son, is like, hey, your dad told me you know what to do. I need to go back in time, make it happen. So he goes back in time, which, of course, if anybody's seen Back to the Future or anything that has time travel, you know, things that happen when people go back in time can fuck up present day and technically the future. So when he goes back, he kills K, which fucks up the present. And K and J aren't aware of this, really. K kind of senses something is happening, but not sure what. And so J remembers K, but no one else does. And then he finally is able to communicate that to his new head, who, by the way, is Emma Thompson. She is O. And we've lost Zed. He has a funeral, which is Tommy Lee Jones as K delivering his eulogy for Zed is so, like, just... Yeah. What would you expect? Nothing less than just like a short sentence. But so anyways, he goes to O and is like, hey, where's K? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, will you stop like yelling? Like he thinks everyone is playing a prank on him by being like, what are you talking about? And she's like, K's been dead for like 40 years. Like, what are you talking about? And he has this craving for chocolate milk. So she's like, wait, how long have you been having this craving? He's like, since this morning. She's like, oh my God, either you have this crazy alien tick thing or like something has happened time travel wise in the space-time continuum. So they figure out that something's wrong. So she's like, well, this is the guy who figured out time travel. So I don't know. He's been in jail. And they're like putting 2 and 2 together. And they're like, oh, we gotta find his son or relative, whatever. So he finds his son. He goes back in time. He is not supposed to meet up with Kay, but he does by happenstance. So they team up. He tries to convince him, like, look, I'm your partner from the future. I'm trying to help you, and trying not to tell him that you die. That's why I'm here. But we need to stop this thing from happening and blah, blah, blah. So basically they do that. And then at the end, they meet their goal. And Jay also learns that Kay knew him back then in the 60s as a kid, and that Jay's father died saving Kay's life, and that Kay also neuralized his memory of it, and that's probably also why he recruited Jay to some extent. But yeah, so that part is the part that Roger Ebert is like, you know, it kind of gives more to that relationship.
A very touchy-feely ending.
Yeah. And then, you know, he goes back to the future, and Kay is back because he exists now. He didn't die. And so I think there's some understanding for Jay. Not completely, because the whole time in the 60s, he's like, damn, what happened to you that you're not like this? Like, because young Kay is kind of fun and talkative and, you know, not so crotchety and like, you know, stiff, and
he smiles a little bit more.
Yeah. So he doesn't really know what happened to him, which probably was like later in his life. But I think he just has like at least an understanding and a knowing that like at some point he was like this. So like he hasn't always been like that, and that he kind of has like a spank bank of like he was nice at one point of knowing him from the past of like you know, sometimes like you get into like arguments or you're mad at someone and you have to remember like, okay, I didn't always hate you, like we have good memories and stuff. And so I think that's part of the beauty of him going in the past. That's probably pretty long-winded, but hey, it's from the top of my head, people.
That was good.
But yeah, so speaking of young Kay, let's talk about the cast. Obviously, we've got Third Time's the Charm with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. So Tommy Lee Jones still, you know, very much the...
deadpan.
What do you call it? Yeah, the straight man.
Yes.
And the deadpan. And, you know, he's a little older here, which kind of made me sad in the beginning, because I was like, damn, like he looks older. But yeah, I think pretty much the same, maybe a little more nuance in his performance because he is older in the storyline. But
and I think he says this line of regret is the most destructive form in the universe, because him and Jay have an argument when they leave. They like, you know, bust up a little alien invasion at a like Asian restaurant, and then that's when they learn that Boris, the animal, is back. And so Agent K has to live with this like regret, because he regrets not killing him, he regrets sending him to jail. And then also we know that K is, you know, lives with this sadness of losing relationships, partners, wives, and it's obviously this job has really hardened him over the years. And his relationship with Jay means a lot to him, but he just is not the best at being touchy-feely and communicative with that. And so the two of them have this argument, and he tries to call Agent Jay right before he gets zipped out of the timeline by Boris, and he goes, what one of the most destructive forms in the universe is? And he goes, it's regret. And it's like, damn, that's actually pretty deep. And you see that kind of nuanced of him feeling perhaps a little sorry for being so closed off and distant and hardened, I guess.
Said beautifully. What do we think about Josh Brolin as young K after Roger Ebert so eloquently was fanboying over his performance?
And supposedly that is true. That is listed in one of the IMDb trivia facts that Barry Sonnenfeld, I think there were other people that were in the running to be playing Josh Brolin's role, but it wasn't until Sonnenfeld heard his impression of Tommy Lee Jones that he was like apparently cried, was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, which apparently he just did for fun, like with some friends and stuff.
It wasn't like for an audition?
I think by way of like other people, Barry Sonnenfeld heard of his impression, and so there's an interview where he kind of talks about it. But...
Right. I don't want to say love. I like Josh Brolin a lot. I think he's always been a little handsome to me. Maybe not so much now, but like he was in the Goonies in his late teens, maybe early 20s. He was like the older brother of all the boys.
Yeah, that's him.
And he was so cute in the Goonies, and I always thought he comes from a family of actors. His dad, James Brolin, was in the original Amityville Horror, like 70s Amityville Horror stuff. And I think he's great. And I also kind of thought it was interesting too that the Avengers came out this month, and to which a franchise that he's going to be very much a part of as he plays Thanos. But yeah, thought he was great.
Makes sense now. Yeah, he's been in a lot of movies, and he's like very much an actor's actor, I feel like, and like a guy's guy. Like he's been in True Grit and No Country for Old Men and things like that.
That's also with Tommy Lee Jones too.
This is his third movie with him, but he's never been in scenes with Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, interesting. So same movie, but never together.
Yes. So that comes up a lot in his interviews. He's like, yeah, this is my third movie with him, but we've never had scenes together. Like, it's always been, we're not in anything having to do with each other, I guess, character-wise. So I think we talked about this with someone else before, but I always find that interesting because, like, in my mind, you would think that I'm sure they saw each other on set, but, like, I just never thought about, like, damn, okay, yeah, this person's in this movie with this person, and, like, maybe they're cool, but, like, they don't have any scenes together, so they probably don't really have any, like, commentary or anything on, like, what it's like working with that person, which, funnily enough, I guess we could have thought about, we probably talked about with What to Expect When You're Expecting, because they're all separate stories.
Yeah.
So, like, Cameron Diaz and J-Lo did a movie together, but they didn't really do a movie together.
Right, right.
Like, they're not in any scenes together, really.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I like Josh Brolin. I thought his voice interpretation of Tommy Lee Jones was spot on and super believable. Like, it's so hard to be like, that's not a young Tommy Lee Jones. Like,
totally.
That is someone else. So it's interesting to have such a strong performance in a movie like this, where it's like, I don't want to say it's like wasted, but I just feel like content-wise, like, this is like an Oscar-worthy kind of performance, and the material is not Oscar-worthy in the sense that it's not like a dramatic movie or anything like that. But yeah, really liked his Agent K. Jermaine Clint, Boris the Animal.
Okay, so for Flight of the Conchords fans, or for people who know Jermaine Clement from a lot of things, but he is a very famous actor from New Zealand. I
He's from New Zealand?
He's a Kiwi, and he did also the voice of the Tomatoa, the crab from Moana.
Yes, I saw that in his credits, which I love that dumbass crab.
I love that. It's so funny. And he's just like, just pick an eye, babe. Pick an eye. And he's good friends with, I'm going to butcher the name, but like Taika TT. Yeah, anyway, so who's like also big in the Marvel world right now.
And he's now married to Rita Ora.
Oh.
So weird.
So I, again, watched this knowing that he was on the bill, but then not knowing who he was. His prosthetics took over 4.5 hours every day. He was unrecognizable. So I pulled in Kevin to like watch a few minutes with it. I was like, who is that? And he said, I don't know. As soon as I said New Zealand, he was just like, oh, is that one of the Flight of the Conchords guys? And that's probably an obvious clue, but he was great, very creepy. They put in really nasty teeth in his mouth. He also has these really great like optic eyes, and his younger, and I like that he played himself younger and older, just with different hair and stuff, but like the scarring of his face, and he has this his alien type has like another alien living in his hand that shoots out like venomous spikes to kill you. And then he also has these like claw feet, and the practical effects I think were great. And I love it when you can see an actor kind of like Colin Farrell as the Penguin in the new Batman. You're like, what the fuck? That's Colin Farrell. Like, yeah. I love that shit.
So, I think this is easy, but play this a little early. How would you rank the villains from 1, 2, and 3?
Okay, so Cyrilina's villain in number 2, Boris, and number 1 was
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh, okay. So Vincent number 1, Jermaine number 2, Cyrilina, Anna Flynn Boyle number 3.
Yeah. Okay. I figured. So yeah. That's why I said it was easy.
Yeah. But our thoughts, though, for like our first bullet point, I was like starting off again with another vixen with big boobs and high heels. Like I almost like got a semi-migraine, but then when we didn't continue her journey, I was like, okay.
Let's talk about that person, because
it's
the
Nicole
opening
from
scene.
The Pussycat Dolls.
Yes, and that is what made me be like, okay, this is what we're doing, is that we're just going to shove like a bunch of celeb cameos, and which we've had previously, but like no shade to Nicole Scherzinger, like, and I'm probably butchering that, in the Pussycat Dolls. Loved Buttons and all those songs, but she's not like a top tier celebrity cameo. So I was just like, oh God, here we go with like the low budget celeb cameos. Like, hey, you want to be in Men in Black 3? Okay, great. Like, yeah. But she just plays like this quick scene where she's like, she visits Boris and brings him a birthday cake, which has his little baby alien thing in it. And that's how he gets broken out of the lunar prison that he's on the moon. Another awesome actress, Emma Thompson, as Agent O, which love her.
Yes, and she also had that really small bit in I Am Legend as the doctor, but it might be that thing where they never met each other on set, since they kind of filmed her bit as if she was in a newsroom. So she might have just done that from home and they green screened it. Who knows? I love it when like serious British actors can be silly and goofy, and Emma Thompson's someone who has a lot of range. Professor Trelawney, Harry Potter, Nanny McPhee, where she's done some like ugly makeup prosthetics. Like Emma Thompson's done a lot of really great stuff. So I thought that she was good in this movie. I loved how she's always had like a very kind of short haircut. And I like the way that they made her hair. It was ugly. Like I wouldn't wear that hairstyle IRL, but it was like futuristic kind of.
Yeah.
The way that they took her hair and kind of like spiked it.
It was very crunchy, which I was like, oh god, they probably use like a ton of. There's this thing called spritz that I don't know if they use this on white people's hair for sure, but I know like in black hair salons is a big tool to get your hair to be like really like stiffly like styled into something. So like prom hairstyles, a lot of times like there's a lot of spritz in there because you would like curl it and it would just like stay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed seeing her in this movie replacing Zed, which I think is because the actor passed away.
Okay, so I thought that too, and I was like, okay, R.I.P. Rip Torn, glad that they're giving a nod to him. He died in 2019. He just didn't want to come back and do this movie.
He didn't want a free paycheck? Like, okay. Well, I was like, love Emma Thompson, great. And I think it's cool too that they had her character be in the 1969 agency as well, and she just seems kind of like a assistant secretary type, which shows obviously the gender roles and changes of the time that she was able to start out like that and then wind up being the head of the agency after Zed's death. But okay, I didn't know he like was just like, nah, I'm not coming back.
Either that or he was like sick.
Oh, another actor that kind of I won't say he stole the show, but like was a pleasant surprise is Michael Stolbart.
Yeah.
He played Griffin.
Yeah, I liked that character a lot. He played an alien that had future prediction, but like of all outcomes. And I just loved the innocence that his character had. Almost seemed somewhat on the spectrum, but kind of liked that he was just a little like offbeat.
Yeah, I liked that innocent part of him too. It kind of gave me like a Robin Williams type feel, and like Jack or something.
Yes.
Another actor surprise was Will Arnett. He played Jay in the alternate futures partner, and so he's in the elevator with him and is just like, you know, chatting with him, and he's like, why is he talking to me and all this stuff. So a surprise for me was seeing that Bill Hader was Andy Warhol.
Yeah, he was so funny because there's two trailers for this. There's one trailer that just kind of gives the basic premise of it, and then a second trailer that's a little bit longer that gives a little bit more of the funny jokes into away. And he's Bill Hader's in that second one where he's Andy Warhol and he like takes off the wig and he's undercover because a lot of the people that were at the factory were of an alien race, and so he's kind of like undercover, just like hanging out with that indie quirky alien Eddie Sedgwick alien group. But when Will Smith, he's like, I would pimp slap the shiznit out of Andy Warhol was funny. And then he was just like, can you just fake my death, man? I'm so tired of listening to sitar music and like painting soup cans.
And bananas. And then this is like, that's when Jay realizes like who he is. He's like, oh man, I like your work. And like, it's so funny to think that like, to take that comedic take and to think that this was like all a ruse and like a guise, and that he was not at all serious about like this art that is taken so serious nowadays. And then to the notion that all supermodels are aliens is also very funny and interesting.
Yeah.
And for me, that's kind of it. I mean, obviously there's some great, you know, we have actors and stuff. Who
I was gonna say we have a new lineup of confirmed celebrity aliens. I remember we were talking about like the original celebrity group in 1997, and so now we have some more 2012 on trend celebs. I saw Lady Gaga for sure, which is funny. And on the
because
note,
she showed up in an egg at the Grammys.
born this way, right? Bill Gates, Yao Ming, Justin Bieber, Tim Burton, and David Beckham. But I had to like pause and like look at the screen, and then I confirmed on IMDb.
I would say Posh is an alien before David, but at this point, they probably both are. And shall we move on to the man of the hour and a half, 2-hour podcast, Mr. Willard Carroll Smith, in his third trip down Men in Black Lane as Agent J.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we can start off with like your note on his more serious tone in this movie. He still delivered a lot of great comedic one-liners. He was still being thrown around and had some good jostling, and he got slimed a few times. Yeah, you know, it's like, it's obvious that they're a little bit older, and, you know, he kind of has that Danny Glover line of like, I'm getting too old for this when they sit down at the Asian restaurant. But even so, he's still able to keep up and do a lot of great stunt work, and bring some of the charm from that first movie that made it so funny and make it still work in 2012 back. I like the part when they went to go get pie, and he was just like, I'm not going to eat your dumbass pie. And he was just like, just trust the pie.
I think, too, he was like a little jaded because he was alone and going through partners and all that stuff. This movie, I felt like he was jaded, but like also tired, and he looks older in this movie. And I mean, I know what Will Smith looks like now, and I think he looks great to be like in his 50s now. But like, I felt like he looked way older in this movie. Like, I don't know, something was off to me. I don't know if it's like makeup or they intentionally wanted him to look older, or the mustache, like, because sometimes him and his facial hair will really like fuck with you.
If he's really clean, like in 7 Pounds, clean shaven, he looked really young.
Yeah, and then like even like, I want to say after Aladdin, he just had like a chin goatee, which was like trippy and just made him look really different. But yeah, so look wise, I feel like he just looks like worn and tired and, you know, disgruntled.
I think with the exception of the one scene where he's in his apartment playing video games, he's in his suit most of the time. So I wonder if that has something to do with it, because we loved the fashion from the original 1997 with the big red swishy pants, and some of his other street clothes were really great. But in this one, he's pretty much just in the suit.
But two, he is too. Like, there's no point where he changes clothes. Okay. So, and I think he's not as funny in this movie. Like, the tone is way different. There's definitely like one-liners that are intended to be funny, like, you know, the O and the K stuff.
Yeah, but you look like you're from the planet Damn.
But like the way they're delivered, I feel like are kind of on a Tommy Lee Jones kind of level of just like, you know, that's his humor and reality versus of like in the first one where he touches that thing and it's like bouncing around, and there's that iconic gif that a lot of people use of him going like, damn, like, you know, there's no physical comedy with his delivery in this one. I feel like, you know,
it's comedic but still kind of deadpan.
Yeah, whereas like the other movies, I feel like he was definitely like more I don't want to say over the top in like a too kind of way, but like he was more over the top in his delivery and his characterization of Jay and youthful. So I say all of that to say that I think his performance in this is different but good, and in a good way. I do kind of miss like the comedy of it, but the storyline doesn't really lend itself to it being like super hilarious or something. Like, it's a pretty serious storyline. So So yeah, I liked this shift in Jay, and like I said earlier, like it would have been interesting if like this had started out on this kind of note versus it being over the top and funny and goofy. Like to me, the first two movies are kids movies, and hopefully like the parents get a laugh out of it too. This movie to me doesn't seem like a kids movie. Like I wouldn't have really probably enjoyed this as much as the first two as a kid. So
I would agree with that. I think especially too because they go back to such an earlier decade that I'm sure maybe some of the parents or older people who went to go see it were like maybe feeling a little nostalgic themselves for the summer of '69. So I think that's a very fair and decent observation to make.
but yeah, so besides Will's performance, obviously we enjoyed this movie. But there's something missing. A song. Will Smith
Yes.
did not record a song for
He was replaced by Miss Worldwide.
yeah. So there is an interview where the interviewer asks Will, like, how come you didn't do a song for this movie? You did songs for the other two. And so Will kind of says, oh, I didn't want to go back to the well and kind of be too obvious and do the same thing. And he also points out, I've definitely acted more recently than I have rapped in a long time. So, and then we just released our Born to Reign and Lost and Found episode, and his rap career didn't really end on the highest note.
I know. I'm wondering if he was just still a little miffed about that he's like, fuck it, I don't want to do a single.
I feel like he just, part of me wonders if, like, because I feel like one thing about Durlo is that she makes music and, oh my God, I don't even want to bring that up. But anyway, she makes music and she does movies pretty consistently. And she clearly loves both of them. And I feel like if you love both of them enough, you would still make music, right? So it's curious to me. I felt like Will felt like that for a long time. Like, oh, I could do both and I could be great at both. But I feel like part of that is like the success. Like Will is very much like, and I think it changes as you get older. Like look at Beyonce now. She's like, I don't really care about numbers. Like I'm just trying to make art that I love and I find will help people or whatever. And some people care about, oh, I want #1 songs. I want #1 albums. I want to win Grammys and Billboard Awards and American Music Awards and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like part of Will's music career is tied up in that. Like he was so good, so young, and kind of sustained that, despite if someone wants to call his songs cheesy and stuff. Like he did win a Grammy for Men in Black. And so I feel like making albums and they're not doing so hot, and the landscape of music changed too. But I would think like despite that, you would be like, I gotta do a song for the last Men in Black. Like, why wouldn't you? Besides maybe being like, yeah, it's probably not gonna be that great, so I'm not gonna even like, I'm not even gonna put myself out there to be like criticized and like flop again or something. But I think Switch was a decent big song for him though. Like I don't think that was a huge flop, but I think it's different from the level of success that he was used to. And so I think he was just like, you know what, if this is where this is going, I'm out. Bye. But anyways, we did get a song from Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide. Did he say Dalla in the credits song?
He said
something.
I think he said Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. World, yeah. That I was just like, it's kind of like DJ Khaled in Aladdin. Where it was just like,
I can't wait to watch that again with you, dude.
Which, okay, I just talked about all that, my theories with Will and making music in his career, but then he did Aladdin and he raps and, has Friend Like Me. So, I don't know. But anyways, Pitbull has a song in Men in Black. Did you listen to it outside of the credits, or
I did not.
what did you think of what you did hear in the credits?
It was a decent song that fit the like vibe of the movie.
I felt it was weird that he was the one that made the song, you know?
Ooh. Would you have chosen someone else?
Probably, yeah.
Who do you think would have fit that like 2012 time to put you on the spot? LMFAO?
I mean,
every day I'm blasting aliens. Pew, 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 pew.
I mean, Pitbull fits in terms of like the music landscape of 2012, but I would say like to have like a song the caliber of the first Men in Black song and, you know, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe you do get like Justin Bieber to do it, or, you know, Adele. No, I'm kidding, not Adele. Mm-hmm. She's way too rich for Men in Black. But yeah, I don't know. I would think you would go like more pop than like rap, and like at that Pitbull has a very specific lane, which is like club, hotel, beach, club, like rap
Galaxy.
And party.
Yeah. A lot of people felt that way. And speaking of that meme, a lot of people felt that way about Lady Gaga doing the song for the new Top Gun movie.
Oh.
Her song was in the post credits, and, you know, was played on, you know, KKIQ, Alice. Those are our Bay Area hometown regular stations.
I haven't heard her song for Top Gun.
It's ballady. It's ballady and big. And so a lot of people were like, really? Okay.
Did you not see the first Top Gun?
Well, I get like Take My Breath Away. I get that. But
Danger Zone is what everyone was hoping for.
Yeah, I think they were looking for more of a, you know,
Hell, Wiz Khalifa.
There you go.
And then you would have beat the Fast and Furious See You Again song that he had. Or B.O.B. was out at this time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, or like a Rihanna duet, maybe.
Drake.
Yeah.
Who, you know, I wouldn't see him saying no to a paycheck for... But I don't really think his style fits doing a movie song. Anyways, I don't know. But...
I'm sorry,
it was very
I kind of put you on the spot. Yeah.
To hear Pitbull. What else shall we talk about? Any parts of the movie you like to go over, or
I liked the
just
a couple other notes from the movie. I liked the, homage to Frank the Pug. You see a picture of a pug in his apartment, and then again in like a little billboard.
But it is over his bed in his apartment.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
I know that they can't really get attached to people, but they could fuck, right? Like, you can't bring back, like, I'm sorry, if someone brought me back and they had, like, a huge picture of, even if it was their dog, but, like, a huge, like, picture of them over their bed, I'd be like, this is a yellow flag. It's not a red flag, but it's a warning sign.
Oh my God, a yellow flag. That's funny. I love the era of the 50s and 60s of that, like, how they envisioned space, very kind of mid-century modern. So in the 1969 version of the Men in Black agency, again, I think they nailed it with the, like, gender norms and stereotypes. They had this, like, bullpen desk area where all the male agents were on the floor, and then all the ladies were up top typing and answering phones and stuff. And I didn't mind that. It didn't feel like insulting to watch, because I'm like, well, that's how it was.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, mustard motif of Coney Island I thought was gorgeous. Loved the fashion. And there were times too where it just felt like we were really getting beat over the head with, like, the 60s-ness of it. But I at least appreciated the, like, space-ness of it too, and how they worked it in with the actual launching of Apollo 11 to the moon. And
we went to the moon in 1969.
Yeah.
From Even Stevens?
Oh.
You're like, yeah, I just said that.
Sorry.
If you're a millennial, that's probably how you remember when the moon landing was.
Yes. The twist at the end kind of made me go, okay. But then damn it made me cry or like tear up a little bit once they went back to the like normal present day. So as Bria had mentioned in the summary of it, one of the things was that in the alien, what was his name that can see all of the outcomes?
Griffin.
Griffin can't tell them what to do, but says like there is a possibility that you can save Kay and both be back in present day, but when there is when there is a death will always be present kind of thing. So in order to save Kay, someone else needed to die that day, and then we learned that was Jay's father, and then when they pulled out the stopwatch and stuff, I was like, okay, at first I thought that was like a little unnecessary. But then when they get back to present day and they're at the diner and they're eating a slice of pie, and then there's secrets of the universe that not everyone should know, and he slides the little watch up there and they kind of like look at each other. I was like, oh. I honestly thought, because this was my first time seeing it today, I thought that Will Smith was going to die. I thought that he was going to sacrifice himself to save Kay, and then that was his way of like ending himself, like Han Soloing himself out of the series to be like, I'm done. So the first time that he like grabbed Boris and fell off the ledge, I was like, this is it. Oh my God. Like, this is where there's death, there's always going to be death. But then there is that bit of a fake out too. But what I thought was cheesy ended up working out well, in my opinion. But
yeah, I thought his dad, like, because he makes like a joke, he's like, oh yeah, I used to play this game called Catch with me in the wall because my dad was never there. And I was like, I thought it was like the typical like black father stereotype trope of his dad just not being around and like had abandoned him or something, or just left him and his mom. And I think that's a big difference to like your father passing away, like kind of in the line of duty.
And being a general, he had a big job.
Like, I feel like he would have, like, a better memory of his... I know he got neuralized, but, like, Kate says to him, like, your dad's a hero. Like, so I would think that he would grow up kind of idolizing his dad in some weird way of, like, my dad was this, like, strong general and he died, saving someone or something like that. And, kind of internalizing that and trying to be like, when we saw him running around in the first movie chasing, not unbeknownst to him, but aliens and shit, like this big hero cop type of dude, that would make sense. But like the way they painted it earlier was just like his dad had just like left him or something. Yeah. So just to comment on that, I did have a question plot wise, because at first I was like, if Boris went back in time to kill Kay, why didn't he just like, because in the future we see like his alien race, I guess, replenished, because, they didn't kill his planet or something. But I thought, I was confused because I was like, wouldn't the present that Jay was in be fucked up, kind of like Back to the Future when Marty goes back to, and it's like the different Biff timeline? Like, wouldn't him having already gone back and killed Kay had fucked up the future where it was like already messed up, versus him being able to like be like, something's weird but everything's kind of normal? But like I would feel like it would have already been a little more dystopian or like invaded. It was just starting to get there, like they were like the ships and stuff were coming when he jumped off to go back in time. But that was the only thing time wise that didn't really make sense to me, but it wasn't a big deal. But
yeah, also they made it really convenient to get those that the person, I think his name was Jeffrey Price or something, who obviously excuse me, plays the new Tony Shalhoub of like the Jeeves role of having all of the gadgets and stuff.
That's someone I did miss. I was like, no Jeeves
Yeah,
this time. Like,
yeah. But they just, it was really easy to get to him and be like, hey, give me this thing. And he's like, okay, here it is. And he just so happens to have two, and Boris has the other one. Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. I wonder if they did that because there were a lot of things that reminded me of Back to the Future in terms of like going back in time to, you know, stop this destruction of Earth, but also to save someone from their death, you know. So I don't know, maybe they just didn't want to be too similar.
I don't know, because I feel like for me, Back to the Future is like the standard for time travel in movies because it's so kind of flawless. There's probably flaws that people on the internet have been like, you know, analyzing Back to the Future to like some ridiculous extent that they're like, this doesn't make sense. And it's like the smallest thing. But like I've seen Back to the Future plenty of times and I'm never like, how come he doesn't do, or, you know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like most movies that do time travel definitely probably use that as a reference of like, you know, what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I know even like in Harry Potter when Hermione has the
time turner,
that Harry Potter fans are like, but if she went back here and did this and that, and then wouldn't
how
this,
come
like...
Albus Dumbledore didn't use it to like go back in time and kick Voldemort's ass, or just like just kill him when he was Tom Riddle? You know?
Yes, all kinds of things like that where people are like, well, if this technology was available, how come this didn't happen? And you know, so but that was the only thing that kind of was like a hole to me. And then I did like the mid-century modern of the headquarters. They have like these big wood kind of pillars that they had changed, and I was like, oh, that's so beautiful and stuff. Oh, and I loved that they still had gadgets, but they were like in very primitive kind of I say primitive, but you know, very 1960s.
Totally, they had big Edison bulbs, like, and they made like woo woo woo. They made old sounds.
Yeah, like his neuralizer in the 60s had like a belt thing and a cord, and it sounded like dial up. Like,
yes, it did.
So that kind of stuff. The guns were a little bit like bigger and less like sleek, and I'm not sure that they had alien weapons quite yet, but because you know the reason they have like those futuristic guns is that they have a weapons deal with the aliens, but yeah, like that part was really cool in terms of like them flipping it. Even some of the aliens in the headquarters in the 60s are very like 60s, like, you know, My Favorite Martian type of aliens and
very
stuff
much.
Like that.
Yeah.
So that was cool that they were able to do that. There's a part where I think it's O is like, oh, the Viagrans or somebody,
have a very
and I was
interesting
like,
pill.
and I was like, really, a Viagra joke? Like,
yeah, there was also a cameo from Howard Stern in that scene. It's really, really brief, but he's like being taken into custody.
Oh, I did not notice that, but yeah, that is like the Balchinian of this movie, I guess.
Oh my god, I forgot about the Balchinians already.
And then just one last note. I think a wrist strap on the time machine device would have been really helpful because it was just like, it kind of looks like a stopwatch kind of.
Yes.
But it just fits in your hand. And I'm like, the likelihood that I have to jump to time travel, that it might come out of my hand during that jump is very high. So like how you have a strap on your Wii remote back in the day or now if you still play it, like it just would have been, you know, smart. Like why not put a strap on it?
Yeah.
But yeah. And even the amount of times they dropped like the ArchNet thing that they had to put on the space rocket it was like, oh my God, come on, like,
Mm-hmm.
don't take it out of your pocket until you can like actually put it where it needs to be. But that's part of
Yes.
like those scenes of like, oh no, now it dropped over here and now the bad guy is gonna fight me and now we're gonna tussle over who can get to it first and stuff. But yeah, that's just a movie trope, I guess.
Yeah.
But interviews, I guess. There's lots of interviews and behind the scenes stuff for this
Yeah.
movie.
I'm sorry, some of the interviews started to blur together
Yeah.
after a while, but one thing Will Smith had said, fuck, it was something about like producing
Well, he's a producer on this Men in Black.
yes.
And I think if it's the same one, he kind of talks about the level of producing that he does in movies. Like sometimes he can show up and just act, which is like what he did
Yes.
for Ali, I guess.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
other movies, he's kind of like a little bit producing or a little bit like writing and having like a say in what the dialogue is and stuff. And I think so for this movie, he definitely helped with his lines and dialogue and stuff versus like 7 Pounds and Pursuit of Happiness. He didn't really contribute much to those movies. Like they were already like, I guess, where he wanted or needed them to be as they existed.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting because I feel like actors who also produce rarely talk about producing or, you know, not a lot. But it's a little peek at his producing mindset. He does talk about the time gap of the sequels and
Yes.
the same with like Bad Boys not wanting to make sequels just because there'll be a big success where there's definitely sequels where you're like, why did they make a second one of this, or like a third or a fourth or a ninth, looking at you, Fast and the Furious. But you know, because they're obviously going to be a big box office, no matter how shitty the plot line is. It's just like a built-in fan base or desire for people to see like Transformers again for some reason. But wanting to tell a good story and a fun story versus just cashing in on like, yeah, people loved the first two movies, let's make another one.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I did know in Josh Brolin's interview, they asked him, like, if out of anyone you've worked with, who do you think could be aliens? And he said Ryan Gosling, very confidently. And he's like, I just don't get him. Like, we did a full movie together, which he's kind of pointing out compared to, like, his interaction with Tommy Lee Jones, where you rarely saw him. It was like, we worked together, and you know, his mind, I don't quite. So I thought that was interesting. And then he also
that's
said
funny.
Javier Bardem, which
oh yeah,
because that's No Country for Old Men, I think. But I think they were barely in that movie together too, because he pointed that out. He was like, yeah, Javier's someone that like I wasn't really, kind of like Tommy Lee Jones, they had asked him like, oh, is there someone you had worked with but not really had a lot of scenes with that you would like to have a lot of scenes with? And so he said Javier Bardem, but then he also said he could be an alien too because he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So that was funny. And then there's a interview with Will and him, and I think they have pretty like very different energy, but I feel like they have pretty good chemistry. Like I think it's hard for men to not just be like, hey, bro, yeah. But I thought they were pretty, like, like, I wouldn't pair them up, but an interesting duo. Like, oh.
Yeah, I agree. Their like unscripted interview was pretty funny, where they had just kind of like fans ask them questions and they kind of like improvised some. It was a little bit like loose structure, off the cuff style interview, where like I feel like when you're sitting down in a chair, like a Bobby Wygant interview or something, you know what kind of general questions you're going to be asked, or like the regular commentary that might be made. So I think those style interviews are fun, where maybe you don't get to preview the questions ahead of time and you get to have a buddy with you and just kind of riff off of that energy. Was a good interview. I think that worked out really well.
Yeah, like they had asked, like, oh, if you could go back in time, like, how far
Yeah.
would you go back to and where, when? And so Josh Brolin was like, everyone else would probably go back, like, to, like, Braveheart or Attila the Hun and, like, these historical time periods. And he's like, I want to go back and hang out with young Barry Sonnenfeld. And that just makes me wonder, like, how weird Barry Sonnenfeld is. That he was like, I want to see what he was like as a kid.
I mean,
like,
this is the same guy who made Wild Wild West and has that obsession with spiders, man. So he was probably kind of a weird kid.
But what if, like, Josh Brolin was able to go back and then he, like, fucks up Barry Sonnenfeld where we don't get Men in Black or Wild Wild West, like...
where instead he actually got to do the Superman movie that he really wanted to do, and then we never would have got these movies. That would have changed Will Smith's trajectory forever.
Who knows? But I do relate to Will's answer when he was like, Black people can't go far back. I always say that because, sometimes it's like overlooked in that aspect. And I definitely used to overlook it until like the more you realize like in history that it is not so great to go back in time for us.
And I'm glad that they kind of like commented on that in the movie when he's driving the movie and the cops pull him over and they're like, someone of your like ethnicity and stature is driving this car. Like he's obviously racially profiled.
And even like him asking like, where'd you get the suit? Like,
you
can't have a nice suit. Which is crazy because that was like good, interesting, and like showing that, but then it's weird because like his dad in the past is like this high statured military dude,
right?
So it's not completely implausible that there's successful Black people at that time, but racial profiling is what it is. It doesn't make sense. It's not rational at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that was interesting. And then the fact too that he actually did steal the car, like that was a funny line too.
He was just like, well, I did steal it, but not because I'm Black.
But too, when he's in the elevator going down from the Chrysler building, because that's where he time jumps from, so it takes him back to the point where he jumped from in the future. And so he's going down and he gets in an elevator and this white guy is just like all like kind
clutching
of
his pearls.
Yes, clutching his newspaper. And so he's trying to figure out like, did it work? He's like, hey, what day is today or whatever? And he's like barely, he's like, what year is it? Like, and kind of being semi-aggressive with him, but in a very casual way. And so the guy is just like all like cowered in the elevator with him, like, oh god, which made me wonder if it was, I think segregation had ended by then.
Yes.
But the expectation that you'd share an elevator in the Chrysler building with a Black person probably was low. So. Yeah. But he was in a suit. It was like, it'd be different if he was like in street clothes. And
in like 2012 street clothes. Oh my god. That actually might have added maybe a slightly more comedic element to it, or like... Yeah.
It's like when Marty goes back to the future and, like, his mom...
You wearing a life preserver?
Yeah. And he's just wearing a puffy vest. Or, like, when he goes back to the future in the third one and he has on the sneakers and instead of cowboy boots initially and stuff. But, yeah, that's hilarious. Or even his, like, cowboy outfit is very, like, stage, like, theater versus, like, actual...
Pioneer.
Actual like time period correct cowboy gear. It's like all colorful and has fringe and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I did like
maybe,
when he... Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say maybe that would have added to like the time travel, like a fun aspect. But yeah. What were you gonna say?
Oh, when he was at Andy Warhol's party and he saw the group of people from the Black Panther and they all just went like... they like checked themselves. I don't know. Oh, that was funny.
That party I would have wanted to be like in there, like seeing what's going on. And I think it was funny too when he was talking to young Kay in like a back area, And they were like, oh, so-and-so's here. And he's like, oh, well, tell them I'm shooting a young man with a hamburger. and like, it's very, he used some kind of like artsy word or something.
Yeah, it's so nuanced. And now the pickle. Apparently that voice was taken from his bit on SNL as Stefan, but just like not to the extreme as the Stefan voice. But
even Bill Hader looked unrecognizable. We didn't talk about that in talking about him in the cast, but like he kind of has on prosthetics and stuff too, where like I didn't recognize him like underneath it either. But
is there a movie or a question you would like to ask Will Smith or anyone on the cast for an interview?
No, I mean, I just wish that they did more with this franchise. Like, I feel like it had so much potential to see the scale that the Avengers was at in 2012 to like where this movie was able to do kind of makes me sad, because I think Men in Black is a very interesting premise that we don't see a lot. And I really want to watch International now, because I'm curious like what they tried to do with that kind of reboot. But I would love to see this as a TV series, like in a very kind of Twilight Zone kind of way. I know we had the cartoon series.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to research. Was that on Fox Kids?
It's on WB Kids, I think.
Okay.
With like Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and Batman.
That's when they also did like the Mask animated series, right?
Probably, and like Beetlejuice and stuff. Yeah. But I would love to see this as a live action TV series of being able to like do like a case by case like thing, or just like even if it's like a limited series, like a Big Little Lies, a True Detective type of like we have a story to tell, but only for like 2 seasons, like where it's not like a Grey's Anatomy where it's like we're on season 25.
More than that, I feel like.
And so died, but now they're coming back from the dead because of the miracle vaccine. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, like I would love to see someone like really take this serious kind of tone with it, or even if it's like in the 60s, like a Mad Men type of like vibe of that era. And there's so much with science fiction in the 60s that would be great to talk about and stuff, and then adding on top of the actual technology we have, where you can blend like that 60s, oh, aliens exist, and they're like the big-eyed like or the little spaceman type to people casually, but then with technology and CGI, we get like the caliber of aliens you see in Men in Black or Alien versus Predator and stuff, like these huge monsters and stuff. And it's like, you have no idea like what's really out there. I don't know. I'm just not even hyping. I'm pitching this for someone smart to be able to capitalize on this. Well, if you ever listen, here you go. Like, Overbrook Productions.
That's why I wasn't sure to even call this a prequel, because it's definitely not, even though they do go back, but a prequel concept to the show of like, how did the Men in Black agency get started? Who are some of the founders? How did they build like interpersonal relationships with some of the alien race to be able to like peacefully live amongst each other and stuff? Is cool.
Like, even getting to see them able to put the Arnett thing in space, and how much that changed the future, because so much was protected because of that. And to be able to see like the beginnings of that stuff would be really cool. So I guess my question would be, Will, and I don't even think Barry Sonnenfeld would be right for this series.
No.
But Will, would you ever help produce or give blessing for a Men in Black television series to happen. And because too, when I was watching it, I was like, they could do a series like how they flipped Fresh Prince, which is Bel-Air, where Fresh Prince is a sitcom. It's funny, has like the audience and the laugh track and all that stuff. It has the single, like, you know, floor kind of house set. And then you have Bel-Air, which is like a reboot, but it's very dramatic and it's very serious and realistic. And so I would love to see them do that with Men in Black. But yeah, so I guess that's my question. What about you? Do you have a question? Anybody?
How do you think this movie has been able to like to keep its appeal to the audience? Like, what about this movie has been able to keep its like likability and appeal to audiences? I think this like generation nostalgia aside, and it's actually funny because so school has started. I on the first day of school usually do an about me slide to my students, and I have a little slide that goes over my hobbies. But anyways, I just said like I have a little, you know, do a little show. My friend and I watch movies.
Do a little show. Make a little podcast. Eat
butter popcorn. Yum, 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 yum.
Okay,
with
sorry.
little Dodge. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, anyway. So it was like the premise of the show is we pick an actor and then we watch all of their movies from start to finish. So right now we're in the middle of Will Smith, and this weekend I'm going to watch Men in Black 3. And they're like, oh, that's my favorite one. And I was really surprised that response came from, we're at the tail end of Gen Z right now. I think the next... Yeah, so they're the youngest group from Gen Z.
When were they born? Like 2010?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a trip. But I just thought that reaction was so funny. So I kind of asked, I was like, well, what do y'all like about that movie? And they were just like, oh, the aliens are funny and blah, blah, blah. They just said that they liked the, like, action of it all. And, you know, then there were a couple of fans that were like, well, have you watched Independence Day? I'm like, yep, we're past that. We watch every single one. And have you watched this one yet? Yep, we already have. That's it. But they were just so excited when I said not just Men in Black, I said Men in Black 3, and they're like, wow, I love that. So it has staying power amongst generations, which I think is cool.
Are you asking me that question? Or
no, that would be my question
Will?
to Will Smith of like, what do you think works so well about this movie?
I think kids love aliens. But,
I think they do. Aliens are fun.
I do wonder, though, because to me, like, the aliens didn't stand out in this movie like they did the other two.
Yes.
And so to hear that reaction of them being like, the aliens are funny and stuff, and I'm just like, really?
They might be thinking of the talking pug and not realize that
that's not pretty. Yeah.
So that's fine. Or maybe they're thinking of international. Maybe they're thinking like the
I gotta watch this tonight.
I know. Yeah, I think so too. Since that stars like Thor, right? Like
Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
But I do think that like there is a generational shift. I know you're not asking me this question in terms of like the slime and ooze of it all, of the aliens.
I could have used way more slime and ooze in this one.
Yeah, like you can tell the first one was definitely for like our generation of like, here's like gunk and goop and like slime and like all that kind of stuff. And this one, no slime. Like, that's one of the first scenes in the first movie is when he, like, shoots that one alien and it just bursts everywhere. And they're like, okay, we gotta clean up, like, and he's, like, wiping, you know, and then the scene where Will Smith and the alien, and he just, like, the alien baby pukes all over him and stuff.
Yes.
There's no scenes like that in this movie. So, yeah, like, that contributes to the tonal shift as well for me, where it's not, like, ew, and, like, you know... That to me is what takes it away from like being very kid centered in terms of like it being a little more serious. But yeah, what about your snack and cocktail? What'd you look up this time?
Bria, I didn't look up a snack or cocktail. I'm going pie and chocolate milk, baby.
Not even like a boozy chocolate milk? Like,
I suppose you could do, yeah, like a mudslide cocktail that's like a boozy chocolate shake kind of. But honestly, chocolate milk, have we played the game where if you could have a liquid come from each finger, if you could choose like five, if you could shoot a liquid from five fingers.
If you didn't finish that sentence.
Chocolate milk would be one of my, like, if I could permanently pour myself a drink from one of my fingers. I fucking love chocolate milk.
I do not, so it would not be on my list.
Okay.
I was gonna go pie too, even though I don't like pie that much. And then cocktail wise, maybe I'll go strawberry milk because everyone does not pay its respect to strawberry milk or strawberry ice cream in the Neapolitan of the order of how things should go. Just saying.
Okay.
To go with the strawberry rhubarb pie. I've never had rhubarb, I don't think.
I know it's hard. It's one of those. It's like a root. It's like a root fruit.
Kind of like it reminds me of beets. That's why I'm like,
yeah.
But it's a fruit. I feel like it's plain.
Maybe
and
it's I think it's something you add a shit ton of sugar to for sure. But it's a gorgeous pink. I almost chose like a pink cake, like the one that the sexy vixen had in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was like, I love the color of that traditional pink frosting. It's so pretty.
It's very like merry unhappy birthday of you.
Very Alice in Wonderland for sure. It's a bing bong pink.
Or even isn't Cinderella have a cake? Or it's like
you're maybe thinking of her dress. Oh, you're thinking of Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
The cake that they make.
Yes. But yeah, that, or I feel like very 60s cocktail, like you would, like, they were drinking in the MIB headquarters back then. Just like, hey, you want a scotch? Like,
yeah, and smoking too.
But yeah, okay, cool. Anything else? What else do we do on this show?
I don't know. I think that's it. I liked the wrap up for this. I am curious to see International and see how it fits into the timeline of the multiverse of the Men in Black franchise. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a great movie, and I'd watch it again.
Yes, would watch again. Okay, so let's outro, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the 1969 moon landing version of Inside the Actor's Studio.
But seriously, if you like us enough to stick around, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole and stay on that sci-fi train, choo-choo, because next week we're going to be talking about Will Smith in the 2013 movie After Earth, which also has Jaden, correct?
But on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm your host, Simone, and subscribe to this blessed mess. Leave us a like if you are into it. Even if you're on another planet, check out our show and come join us on Earth. It's kind of sucky, but, we still bring some fun and spice to it.
No, it's like the memes I always see of like aliens driving by Earth and be like, ooh, child, the ghetto. Like, we're not going there. And I'm your host, Bria, and it would be awesome for you to wipe off those slimy, buttery alien popcorn fingers and give us a review on wherever you get your podcasts. But leave us a comment on YouTube if you're listening. I saw a few comments and I commented back. So shout out to you awesome people. Follow us at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and my problematic fave Twitter. And this has been another episode of
Roll Call and Cut.